Welcome to our latest news update. Today we will be discussing some of the most pressing issues from around the world. First up, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has vowed to support Ukraine despite Russia's reckless nuclear rhetoric, and has stated that Ukraine will eventually join NATO. Yes. Finland President Yuri Museveni has called on Africa to save the world from homosexuality. Moving on, Russia has announced that it will be increasing its military presence in the northwest as Finland joins NATO. Meanwhile, the Philippines has named 4 new camps for its forces amid China's fury. Finally, China has called on Japan to not join the Encirclement. These are all important issues that we will be discussing in more detail. So, let's get started. Hey guys, did you hear the one about the politician who was afraid of stairs? He was always taking steps to avoid them.
Breaking news. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has vowed to continue supporting Ukraine despite Russia's dangerous and reckless nuclear rhetoric.
Speaking of dangerous and reckless, did you hear about the guy who invented lifesavers? They say he made a mint.
It's important to note that NATO's position remains unchanged, and that Ukraine will become a member of the alliance.
You know, I once tried to start a hot air balloon business, but it never took off.
Stoltenberg emphasized that the main focus now is to ensure that Ukraine remains a sovereign, independent nation in Europe.
Speaking of independence, did you hear about the restaurant called Karma? There's no menu. You just get what you deserve.
The first step toward any membership of Ukraine to NATO is to ensure that Ukraine prevails, and that is why the US and its partners have provided unprecedented support for Ukraine.
You know, I once told a joke about chemistry, but there was no reaction.
Despite the NATO leaders' reassurance that Ukraine is set to join the alliance one day, the prospects of membership are low until Russia's war against Ukraine comes to an end.
From NATO to homosexuality, we now bring you a news segment that's sure to make Putin's head spin. Well, this is certainly a controversial topic. It's important to remember that everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their sexual orientation.
Absolutely, Eric. It's disappointing to see leaders promoting discrimination and hate. We need to stand up for what's right and support the love community.
I couldn't agree more, Kitty. It's a shame that some people still cling to outdated and harmful beliefs. As I always say, the important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing.
Indeed, Albert. And as someone who is always pushing the boundaries of what's possible, I believe we should be embracing diversity and inclusivity. It's what makes us stronger as a society.
Let's take a closer look at the situation in Uganda. It's concerning to see the government promoting such extreme measures against the white community. We need to stand with those who are fighting for their rights.
And it's not just Uganda. The UN has spoken out against this bill, and we need to listen to their concerns. We can't let discrimination go unchecked.
It's important to remember that hate groups like the Southern Poverty Law Center have designated organizations like Family Watch International as anti-hate groups. We need to be aware of who we're letting ourselves with.
And let's not forget the recent visit by Vice President Kamala Harris to Zambia, Tanzania, and Ghana. It's clear that the US is committed to promoting equality and human rights around the world.
Ultimately, it's up to the leaders of African countries to decide how they want to approach this issue. But we can't stand by and watch as human rights are violated. We need to speak out and demand change.
Well, speaking of things that need saving, Russia has decided to beef up its military in the northwest. Looks like they're not taking any chances with Finland joining NATO.
Hey guys, did you hear the one about the politician who was afraid of negative numbers? He'd stop at nothing to avoid them.
Okay, let's get serious. Breaking news, just in. Russia is beefing up its military in response to Finland's expected accession to NATO. This is a big deal, folks.
Indeed it is, KD. This move by Russia is a clear indication of their concern over the expansion of NATO. It's a classic example of the security dilemma in international relations.
Speaking of security, did you guys hear about the guy who stole a calendar? He got 12 months.
Juan, that's terrible. Let's focus on the issue at hand. Finland's potential accession to NATO is a significant development in the region. It's important that we understand the implications of Russia's response.
Absolutely, Barrick. According to the article from Reuters, Finland and Sweden applied to join NATO last year after Russia invaded Ukraine. This move by Russia is likely a response to that.
It's also worth noting that Finland shares the first 300 border with Russia. This will significantly increase the transatlantic alliance's frontier facing Moscow.
You know what they say, Albert. Good fences make good neighbors. Or in this case, good borders make good allies.
Well said. Alon. But let's not forget that Russia has already taken countermeasures by forming 12 units and divisions in its western military district. This latest move only adds to the tension in the region.
It's clear that the situation requires careful monitoring and analysis. We'll continue to follow this story and bring you the latest updates as they become available. Thanks for joining us tonight.
From beefing up military in the northwest to naming new camps for us forces, it seems like everyone is preparing for a potential battle royal. Let's hope they remember to bring their sunscreen.
Well, looks like we have some breaking news tonight. The Philippines has named 4 new camps for us forces under China's fury. This is a significant development in the ongoing tensions between the US and China and the Indo-Pacific region.
Yes, Eric. This is a major story. The Philippines is a key ally of US in the region, and this move is sure to ruffle some feathers in Beijing.
Indeed, Katie. Seems that the geopolitical situation in the region is becoming increasingly complex. As they say, the more things change, the more they remain the same.
That's right, Albert. The US has been working to strengthen its military alliances in the Indo-Pacific region, and this move by the Philippines is a clear indication of that.
I have to say, I'm impressed by the Philippines' willingness to stand up to China. It takes a lot of courage to take a stance like this.
Absolutely, Katie. The Philippines is showing that it's not afraid to take a strong position on the world stage.
It's important to remember that this move by the Philippines is not just about military strategy. It's also about protecting the country's economic interests in the region.
That's right, Albert. The South China Sea is a key trade route, and the Philippines has a responsibility to help secure it.
Well, it looks like we'll have to keep a close eye on the story as it develops. In the meantime, let's remember to stay impartial and report facts as they come in.
Absolutely, Katie. As news anchors, it's our job to provide accurate and unbiased information to our viewers. And in this article, we have a prime example of why that's so important.
Well, it looks like the Philippines is rolling out the welcome mat for us forces, but China is warning Japan not to join the party. Looks like someone didn't get the memo about sharing.
Well, looks like China is calling on Japan to not join the Encirclement. This is quite the diplomatic dance we're seeing here.
Yes, it seems like China is trying to keep Japan on their side while also trying to avoid any further tension with the US.
The delicate balance of international relations. It's like trying to balance a pencil on its tip.
Indeed. And it's interesting to see China urging Japan to guide the tone and course of meetings in a correct manner. It's almost like they're trying to influence the outcome of the G7 summit.
Well, I guess we can't blame them for trying. But it's important for Japan to make their own decisions and not be swayed by outside pressure.
Absolutely. And it's also worth noting that China is particularly cautious about US moves to urge Japan and other nations to take coordinated action in restricting shipments of semiconductor manufacturing equipment to it.
The world of technology and trade. It's like a game of chess, with each move having its own consequences.
And it seems like China is trying to remind Japan of the US Japan trade friction in the 1980s, with Kin implicitly criticizing Japan's recent move to tighten controls on exports of advanced semiconductor manufacturing equipment.
Well, as they say, history has a way of repeating itself. But let's hope that Japan and China can move past their differences and work towards a win-win situation that will benefit both sides.